Well, D.D. Palmer, you have to know a little bit about him because he was a very brilliant man. He was an educator. He was a teacher of the schooling system in his day. He was kind of like the superintendent of the school in that day. He taught all the classes. He was also a very experienced farmer. In fact, he grew hybrid crops that were so famous in those days that a company came by and bought his orchard and bought his special hybrid fruits. He also had a bee farm, and he produced a special honey called Tupelo honey that was so good in those days that doctors used it for healing. He was also an inventor. He invented a special box to ship fresh fish around the country, and a company bought that invention from him. But he also was a mesmerizer. In those days, they were followers of a man by the name of Professor Dr. Mesmer. And Dr. Mesmer was a philosopher in those days that doctors and teachers and educators followed. And they believed that if you could help people's minds and direct their minds to be happy every day, they would live longer, they'd live healthier. Because if your mind became toxic with bad thoughts and negative thoughts, that would produce trauma in the body. You could get heartaches, you could get damage to your organs of your body and your brain. And that's why so many people today have gallbladder trouble, because when their problems in their body became so toxic, God gave us a gallbladder to store the gall, the anger, the sickness, the thoughts. And so D.D. Palmer's first impression was his first 20 years of research as a doctor and as an educator and as a farmer and a researcher was if I could just help people's brains and mesmerize their brain to think proper, they would live longer. They would have less damage and sickness in their life. And he believed in those days, and the doctors believed in those days, that 80% of everything that went wrong with you physically and mentally, you would live longer and live better without all those thoughts. And so his first 20 years, he taught people, taught his patients that emotionally you have to be happy. What you think, you become. That's biblical. What you think of, you become. And so then he went into, of course, what I just talked about, his farming and the crops and the fruits and the honey. And he believed that if you lived good and ate good and had good food in your body, you would live longer, that your body had great resources to live on. Your nervous system would live on that. And after 20 years of teaching people what Dr. Mesmer taught him, and he taught in the classroom, and he taught his patients, and eventually taught his doctors, that good thinking and good resources of the body would keep the body healthy. But if you didn't do that, the body would subluxate. And the word subluxation means that something is going to go out of place. Something's going to go awry. Your body will actually injure itself. It will put a bone out of place somewhere in the spine to stop your body from even going further down with more damage. And so in chiropractic, we use the word subluxation. That means that the atlas goes out of place, the occiput goes out of place, or some bone in the spine, or your ankle, or your foot, or your elbow, or some joint in your body will quickly jack itself up to hold up something that's in harm's way. B.J. Palmer used to say, you put a jack on the car when you have a flat tire. He said, subluxation is like a jack on the bumper of a car that holds up a flat tire. He says, when we're subluxated, the body subluxates to hold up what's left of you. If your body's sick and it's ill, he says, the body has to subluxate to prevent itself from getting more harm. And so our job is to make sure that the body has normal pathways of energy flowing from the brain through the nervous system to every organ of the body. That means you have a central nervous system, you have an autonomic nervous system that feeds your organs, and you have a peripheral nervous system that feeds your extremities. And as a result, in chiropractic and in CRA, we are energy beings. We are holistic doctors. Our job is to make sure that the whole, that the connectivity of the nervous system is free and that the energy flows perfectly. When you get bad food in your body, bad poisons or bad drugs in your body, they can harm the body. The body will subluxate to stop that poison, that venom from harming you any further. So the body, through its own smarts, its own intelligence, will help you live a little longer. Our job is to assist the body, not to cure the body. The body can cure itself, providing you keep these pathways open. So in chiropractic, as well in CRA, our job is to measure to make sure that every part of the human spine and nervous system and every organ is congruent, to every part of that body is flowing freely with energy from the top down, inside out, as B.J. Palmer and D.D. always philosophized.